Hey guys, in part 17 of my first series on Cypress, I talked about custom commands, and in part 3 I showed how you can leverage TypeScript type declaration file, which is index.d.ts, to enable auto-completion and code intelligence abilities. Now in this video I would like to take our custom commands one level further and enable custom logging. So this is the login custom command, which takes in username and password and feed the same to respective UI fields. On successful execution, the landing page is displayed. So this is my test case, and this is how we have to invoke this custom command by providing the username and password. Okay, so visiting the website in before reach using cy.visit. So we execute this, and this is our landing page. Okay, so I'll refer this as secure URL later in this tutorial, okay, because we have this secure area in here. All right, now in this login custom command, what would happen if we do not pass in the required username and password data? And yes, before we move on, in TypeScript project, you can be strict and avoid such issues at the compile time itself. But it isn't the case with JavaScript projects, right? And mistakes can happen even in TypeScript if not configured properly. Well, let's execute cy.login without providing in the credentials and see the issue with it. Okay, so you see cy.type can only accept a string or number you passed in undefined. Alright, so not very helpful, not very friendly. So let's create a custom error if login method is not invoked with username and password data. How do we do that? Very simple. So you have to add some kind of error handling code in your custom commands. That's a step number one. And the way you do is you say if no username is provided, okay, then you're gonna throw your own custom error, and the code for that is throw new error, and in here you provide your custom error. For example, you say please enter username. All right, likewise let's do the same for the password field. Okay, so we say if no password, then we are going to say please enter password. Now save it and let's see what do we get now. All right, so now we see a more meaningful message which says that, hey, please enter username. All right, makes sense. Now let's provide in the data and see what are the other things that we should add while creating the custom command. So I run this. Okay, so everything works in here. Okay, but there's not really any trace of our custom command. Okay, like the name of the custom command, arguments we pass to it, any logging to the console, a DOM snapshot, etc. What are these? Okay, so you select any command, open the inspect section. Okay, so go to the console, and in here you see command, yielded, element, you see the selector, and you can also when you hover over this, okay, you see the element is being highlighted. Okay, so we would like to do something similar for our custom commands as well. Okay, now all these features I just mentioned will make your custom command really rich, but this isn't possible with the standard cy.log command, which is used to add some logs here and there, and hence we would require to use Cypress.log API. Now Cypress.log API documentation is available at this particular location. Okay, now this is the internal API for controlling what gets printed to the command log. Fair enough. So command log is one section in here. This is the command log, but we said okay, we also need to take in the DOM snapshot. So these guys these are DOM snapshot, and then we also have the cons. Now this Cypress.log is useful when writing your own custom commands. How is it useful? Okay, so you can pass certain options, and this is an object, as you could see. And okay, so we have some reference to the elements. All right, fair enough. Then this is the name of the command. Now the name, guys, is displayed in here. So this is your name. Okay, so this is your name, and this thing what you're seeing in here is the display name. They can be different, and this is what we are going to see. Okay, so remember, in here you say display name, and this is the name of your command. Go back to the documentation. So name of the command and display name is also the name of the command, but this display name overrides name only for the display purposes, right? We have it displaying in the command log, okay, but in the console you always see this. Now message, right? So message, I mean, as the definition says, command arguments, okay, which means that any argument that you are passing to your custom command, you can keep track of those using this. And console props, it is used to display things into the browser console. Okay, so let's extend our existing command. So we are gonna add some custom log to this, and we say Cypress.log, okay, and then we have to pass in the object. Now first thing is name, so we say the name, let's give the name as login. Let's give the display name as well, so we say display name, and let's say this has to be a login custom command. Okay, so now name and display name are different in our case. And message, if we also want to show your arguments, the command arguments, onto the command log, then you use this. Okay, let's say uname. Okay, it is going to be whatever we pass, uname, and then we say password is gain. So this is PWT. Okay, let's save it, and let's see if we see any difference in the log section. All right, guys, so do you see the difference? Now we have the login custom command, which is the name of it. Okay, then you have the uname and the username that we entered, and PWT is the password, so which is what we passed as the argument to this command. Okay, when you click on this, now guys, in here command is what? Login. So this is the name and this is the display name. Looks better, but we still don't have much in the browser console. So let's add a console props function to print additional information to our console log. Okay, very simple. We go back and we write console props. Now in here, this is how you write the function. Okay, and this function is gonna return an object, and we say username. Okay, and we set it to uname. Okay, let's save it. Let's go back to the browser and let's see if we, when we click on this. Okay, so you see you can add more things in here. Now if we want to have some information that is not available in parameter and also requires DOM snapshots, we need to write our Cypress.log function differently. So let's add the URL of the page launched after logging into this application. So we have this page. Okay, so let's revisit our custom command section. So I'll leave this command as it is, and I have created one more command with the name login console. All right, guys, and which means that I'm gonna execute the other test case, okay, which has this login.console, but we are gonna add more things in here. The first thing that we have to do is, like I said, we have to write it differently. So we say let log is equal to Cypress.log. Okay, and in here let us also add password, and we say pwt. Okay, and the other thing is, and this is in JavaScript, if you have an object which contains the key of which contains multiple words, so you put them into the quotation. So we say secure area URL. Okay, and let's create a variable. Let secured area URL. Okay, and we're gonna set this key value equal to this variable. Now we have to populate data into this variable. So this URL would be visible to us once we submit the form and everything goes well. So once that happens, you have this cy.url command, guys. All right, this will give you the URL of the new page, and then you say then, and inside this you have to write a callback, and the argument would be, let's say, this URL that we received from the previous command, and in here you're gonna set the value of this variable equal to this URL. All right, so this far we are good, but now the thing is, this is my log statement, okay, and I'm extending it in here kind of, because I'm setting this value from here. So I need some kind of mechanism through which I can control this. So I have to tell Cypress that, hey, my logging is not finished in here. Okay, so for that you require an attribute which is auto end. Okay, and you set it to false. Now auto end attribute will tell Cypress not to finish logging until we explicitly say so by using the end function. Okay, so we come down and in here we say log.end, like so. Okay, let us save it and let us execute this one now. So we execute this and let's see what happens now. Okay, so we have this command. All right, and let me click on this. All right, so you see this extra information now. Great. Now next thing is, in here you see snapshot. So the snapshot is missing. How can I add a snapshot? Okay, so it's very simple. Again, you have to extend the log object and you can take in multiple snapshots. So for example, in here you say log and you have the method snapshot, so that will take in a snapshot. Okay, now this will take a snapshot after you have navigated to the page. Okay, now if you also want to take a snapshot before you actually start executing the commands within your custom command, so after creating your log object, you just say log.snapshot, and now we are taking two snapshots, one before we start executing the commands within our custom command, and once after all the commands are being executed. Let me save it, and now let's see whether we have the snapshots being taken or not. Okay, so we have this, and in here now guys, you see we have taken the snapshot, one before and one after, and in here now that message is also gone because we have captured the screenshot. Okay, all good. So we have covered name, display name, message, and console props. Now time to see an example of this element. Now I have this React to do application, and let's inspect this element. This is of type input. Okay, and it has got an attribute name equal to task. Now in this case there is just one input field with this attribute, but if in your application you have many such more fields, then you may decide to create a custom command which only requires to have the attribute value. You do not need to provide in the complete selector like input and then name equal to task. Okay, so let's create a getter custom command and use it instead of get command. Okay, and we have a different block in our test cases, so we no longer need to work on this, and we have to execute this. Now let us look at this. So we are visiting the page, and then in here in the first test case I'm using the cy.get and I'm providing in this whole value and I'm typing into it. Okay, But what we are building is we are going to say cy.getter, and we just need to provide in this attribute value, okay, and just type data into it. Okay, so guys, again I've taken the copy of this login console and created this. So everything you see in here is something that we have already learned, okay, in this video. So you have this error handling, you're writing it differently. You have set this auto end to false so that at later point of time you can end it. Okay, we are taking the snapshot and everything. Okay, we are logging to the console. So let us save this and execute our second describe block. The test cases are executed, but there are some important differences that you have to see. Okay, so number one, so you click on this get and you see all this information in here. Okay, so you again click on your command like this and you clearly see the difference. Okay, so you are not showing the yielded elements, the element count, you're only showing the command and the selector. Okay, so which means that what we can say is, okay, I have to add the yielded and the element count. Okay, so let's add those two properties first. We say element, okay, and the other one is let count. Okay, so we have these two variables, which means that now we have to add those things in here. So I say yielded, okay, and set it to element. Okay, we'll see how we can find these, and then we have to say count and set it to count. Okay, so far so good. Now the next thing that we have to do is we have to disable the default log for this command. Okay, because this is currently getting printed in here. Okay, yeah, so we got to disable this. Okay, so we don't need to log this. How do we do that? So we pass the second argument and we say logging to false. All right, we just want to display our own custom command. All right, great. Now how can I fetch the element and the count? So we have Cypress.dom. Okay, it's a collection of DOM related helper methods. There are actually dozens of methods attached to Cypress.dom that are not documented below. Now these methods are used internally by Cypress in nearly every single built-in command. So if you want to read more about it, you have to open this link. When you open this link, it will give you 4.4 because this particular documentation is not updated. Earlier it was .js, now it is ts, so you just change it to ts, and then you see all these different methods in here. Okay, which one we are gonna work on? We are gonna work on get element. So this is going to give us the element that is there in the DOM. Okay, which one? So we require something like this. Okay, so therefore now we are gonna say my element would be equal to cypress.dom.getElements. Okay, so I have this cypress.dom.getElement. Now of type what in here, you could see you have to provide the jQuery HTML element. We have the jQuery element in here. Okay, so this way we will find the element. And now if you want to find the count is very simple. Basically you just have to say your element dot length property. Okay, now this is fine. Now you also need to make sure that when you hover over your command, okay, you see a snapshot of it. Currently you do not see it, right? So what I'm referring to is when you hover over this, okay, we have to unpin that. When you hover over this, currently in the DOM snapshot the element is highlighted. When you hover over your command, you don't see that element is being highlighted. Okay, because you have to now say we have on log we have a set method. Okay, and in here you have to pass in an object and then you have to pass in the element. Okay, which element? This element, right? So we are all set. Now we save it and execute it again. Let's see, do we see any difference now? And so now you see the other command is gone, and currently when I hover over this in the DOM snapshot, the element is highlighted. Okay, and not just that, in here you would see the same. Okay, so you have that input element, and likewise if you click on this, you see the same information. So we have command, yielded, elements, and selector, and with our custom commands as well, we are pretty much getting the same in the console as well. Now before we conclude, there is just one more thing that we have to do, and for that let's go back to our code. Just imagine, what if this element does not exist in the DOM? Okay, so because of this element auto end, okay, we say we are going to tell when you have to end it. So the logger object will never finish. The test will though still fail, so no real danger, but our getter command will be stuck in a loading state. To fix this, just go for the fail event, finish the log and throw error. Okay, we say cy dot on, okay, and we say now in case of fail, all right, we have to write the callback. Now this is how we write the callback, and in here we say error. Okay, so in case of failure we definitely get an error, so we say log dot error, okay, and we pass in that error information. All right, and now we end it. We have to end our log, okay, in case of error, so we say log dot end. Okay, and the last thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna throw the error. Okay, so we save it and let us change this to 1 2 3, run it. Okay, so this time it is not going to find this element, and yeah, we get this error. Okay, so this is about adding the custom logging in your custom command. If you enjoyed this, like, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.